The cliff had always been a part of my life. Every morning, I'd step out onto my porch and watch the sunrise spill over the canyon, the wind carrying that sweet smell of pine and stone. The cliff was more than scenery, it was a legacy. My father bought this land 50 years ago, and when he passed, I inherited it, strong, untouchable, eternal, or so I thought. One morning, set of peace, I awoke to the rumble of construction equipment. I ran to the edge of my property and froze. There, balanced on the very lip of my cliff, was the skeleton of a massive glass clubhouse. HOA trucks, workers in neon vests, and the smug faces of board members supervised the build like they owned the land. They hadn't asked. They hadn't paid. They hadn't even warned me. And when the earth trembled weeks later, shattering their vanity project into a storm of glass and steel, they had the audacity to scream at me, the man whose cliff they had stolen. That was the day I decided to fight them to the bitter end. My property sat on the far edge of the neighborhood, a rugged stretch of canyon that dropped 300 feet into a river below. The cliff wasn't part of the HOA's development. My deed was clear. My taxes went straight to the county. But HOAs thrive on control. And for years they'd sent letters claiming the cliff was community space. They argued it was perfect. For development, a scenic overlook, a clubhouse, a jewel to elevate property values, I rejected every attempt. I even sent certified letters. This cliff belongs to me. Build on it, and you'll regret it. They ignored me. By midsummer, the construction was nearly complete. A sleek, modern structure of steel and glass rose from the cliff like a scar. Floor-to-ceiling windows jutted over the edge, reflecting sunlight. In blinding bursts, the HOA president Curran, of course, called it a masterpiece. It'll be the pride of our neighborhood, she declared at a meeting I wasn't invited to but heard about anyway. A glass clubhouse with panoramic canyon views. I wanted to laugh at the arrogance. Anyone who lived here knew the cliff was unstable. Small tremors happened often, cracks spreading slowly through the rock face. My father always warned, never build on that edge. It looks strong, but one good shake will send it tumbling. But the HOA never listened. I confronted them at the site, my boots crunching on gravel as workers paused mid-hammer. You're trespassing, I said, voice tight with fury. This cliff is my property. Get your men off it before you regret it. Karen stepped forward in a tailored blazer, sunglasses perched on her nose. She smirked like a queen addressing a peasant. Oh, please, Mr. Carter. This land is for thee. Community. You've hoarded it long enough. We're finally giving it purpose. Purpose? I snapped. You're gambling with lives. The cliff isn't stable. Build here, and it's only a matter of time before it collapses. Her smile widened. Then we'll just make sure it doesn't. Progress waits for no one, not even you. I stared at her, heart pounding, and realized she didn't care about risk, law, or ownership. All she cared about was power. So I documented everything, photos, videos, letters. If they wouldn't listen, maybe the courts would. The earthquake hit on a Sunday morning. It wasn't massive, just a 4.6 tremor, but here in Canyon Country, that was enough. I was drinking coffee when the floor shifted beneath me, rattling mugs in the cupboard. My first thought wasn't my house, it was the cliff. I ran outside. The ground groaned. A deep, ancient sound that made the hair on my arms rise. Cracks split through the rock face, zigzagging like lightning. And then, with a deafening roar, the HOA's glass palace gave way. Windows shattered in a cascade of glittering shards. Steel beams twisted and snapped like toys. The entire structure tilted forward and crumbled, disappearing into the canyon in a storm of dust and debris. Screams echoed from the site. Board members and guests, yes. They'd been hosting an early brunch inside the clubhouse, stumbled onto solid ground, covered in cuts, their fancy clothes torn. Karen shrieked, mascara streaking down her face. Our clubhouse, our investment. This is your fault. I almost laughed at the insanity. My cliff, my warnings, my property. And somehow, they blamed me. By evening, news crews swarmed the street. Helicopters circled the canyon. The HOA stood in a cluster, shouting about lawsuits, demanding I reimburse them for their loss. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, reporters shoving microphones in my face. Senator Carter, one asked because, yes, politics always follows you. Do you take responsibility for the collapse of the HOA's clubhouse? I raised my deed for the cameras. This was my land. The HOA had no legal right to build here. I warned them repeatedly. The earthquake did the rest. If anyone's to blame, it's the arrogance of those who thought they could play God with geology. The clip went viral by nightfall. The HOA filed suit within a week. It demanded $2.4 million for damages, claiming I had sabotaged the cliff to cause the collapse. But my lawyer and I were ready. We presented county geological surveys proving the cliff's instability, cease and desist, letters I'd sent the HOA months earlier, drone footage I'd captured of construction, equipment trespassing. The judge's expression hardened with every exhibit. When Karen tried to argue, waving her manicured hands, the judge cut her off. Ma'am, you've built an unauthorized structure on land that does not belong to you. You were warned. This court will not reward recklessness. The verdict. The HOA owed me damages for trespassing, environmental destruction, and emotional distress. Their insurance wouldn't cover the loss since the build was illegal. Board members faced personal liability. Months later, the debris was cleared. The lawsuit settled, and the HOA left broken. Karen resigned in disgrace, fleeing town under whispers of bankruptcy. As for the cliff, I left it untouched, as my father intended. Wildflowers grew through the cracks. Eagles nested in the crags. Nature, patient and eternal, reclaimed what arrogance tried to steal. Every time I step onto my porch now, I look out at that cliff and feel a fierce pride. Not because I won in court, not because I exposed the HOA, but because I defended my father's legacy against greed. And when neighbors pass by, they no longer whisper in Karen's shadow. They nod, respectful. Some even thank me, because deep down, they know if the quake had hit during a community event, dozens could have died. Karen thought she was building a monument. Instead, she built a tombstone for her own arrogance. The cliff taught me a lesson that day. Some things aren't meant to be conquered. Some places demand respect. The HOA tried to claim what was never theirs. And in the end, nature itself rose up to remind them. Now, when the wind howls through the canyon and the sun sets fire to the sky, I whisper to the earth beneath me, thank you for standing strong. I smile because I know the cliff is mine and always will be. Asterisk.